Welcome back to the studio. I'm Alex Yemek. Today I'm going to talk about three very important things about death. Yes, the very first thing that I would like to say about death, in which people must understand, is that God is not the cause of death. Okay, I know a lot of people are saying, hey, look, God created everything, therefore He brought death. That's not true. In fact, when you know the true nature of God, you will understand that it is impossible for God to also bring death. Now let's talk about the nature of God. God is the act of existence itself. What does that mean? It means existence is what we call God. Yes, the very fact that there is existence, right, we call God. It is impossible that non-existence also be present. So God is, therefore non-existence is not. And what is death? Death is non-existence. So death is the opposite of existence. So if God is the very act of existence, He cannot bring about death. So now for those of us who read the Bible, we go back to the Bible and then we talk about Adam and Eve. God said, hey, look, if you disobey me, you will die. What does that mean? It means if you don't do what I ask you to do, you will part away from me. God is not even parting away from human beings in this context. It is people, those who, disobey God, who parted away from Him. That's what Adam and Eve did. But from the moment where they disobeyed God, they left Him. God did not go anywhere. All right? God cannot give you and then take back. The existence cannot be and then decide not to be. That's impossible. Existence must always be. But human beings were created with the free will of doing what they wanted to do. So Adam and Eve decided, oh, well, you know what, God, I'm going to try to disobey you and see what's going to happen. So they did, and they encountered death. So it is impossible to say that God is the cause of death. The cause of death is when we part away from God. We, human beings, chose death instead of life. We chose non-existence instead of existence. We parted away from God. From the moment where we decided to disobey Him, we walked away from Him and we encountered death. That's what it's true. God is not the cause of death. That's the first point. Second point, because God is not the cause of death, when we die, it is not God who called us. Like a lot of time we talk about, yeah, he's dead. God called him. He went back to God and all that. That's not true. God does not call us when we die. No. In fact, that's the reason why we do autopsies, trying to find out the cause of death. If it was just a matter of, oh, well, it's God who called us, then why would we be doing autopsy? Why are we trying to find out why people died? Right? It wouldn't make any sense. No. God is not the one who called us when we die. No. After the sin that we inherited has weakened us, that's when death comes. The body can no longer hold, right? The soul is weak, with the long life, which has accumulated a lot of sin, right? And because of that, we die. Now, there are those who die when they're young, right? There are those who commit suicide. The fact is, everyone who dies because of a problem that occurred in their lives. If you get hit by a car, it is a car that killed you. It wasn't God who called you. No. A lot of people say, oh, well, his time has come. Maybe yes, because the person died. But, right, we human are the cause of that death. It is not God. So it's not God who called us. Someone drinks, gets inside a car, drives, and has an accident. He dies. You can't say that's God who called him. Did God ask you to go drink, get drunk, and get inside your car and drive and then, have an accident and die? No. Someone who has cancer, for example, because of, I don't know, maybe environment, maybe the way the person was eating, right? Maybe smoking. You're not going to say that it is God who called you. No. You committed suicide on your own. If you've been smoking and you caught cancer of the lung or whatever, it is not God who called you. Someone who's addicted to drug, right? He dies. No, it's not God who called you, right? You committed suicide. We can have many cases like that. We can talk about many things, and then when we talk about these things, people are going to say, well, right, how can you say this? And, people are going to look at certain situations, for example, where there are mass shootings and children are dying, just like some of the ones that we've seen happening in the United States, right? And it hurts these type of things to say. The reality is that God does not wish any children to die. It is the world in which we live that is endangering our children. And they ended up dying very young. It is not God who called them. It is the fact that we are irresponsible toward our own. If you want to be irresponsible toward us, adult, that's okay, right? You want to live your life the way you want, whatever. But from the moment where you have children, you have to be careful, man. You got to sacrifice your life for them, right? There are many things we can say about this. And there are many people who are going to sit down and say, well, accidents and this and that. Look, I'm going to tell you straight up, accidents don't happen. Things just don't happen. Everything has a reason. Third point about death is that because God did not bring about death, and He's not the one calling us, we can decide not to die when we're young. We're eventually going to die because we already inherited that. From the very day that we are born, we are condemned to die. However, we can live long. We don't have to die while we are young. Now, I'm going to give the details of how we can do that in a different video. But in this video, I just want people to understand that death is not something that God has given us. It is something that we brought upon ourselves, and if we did, we can make things better. We must understand something about God. When God gives something, He gives to everyone the same way. Let's talk about air that we breathe, right? It is the same air in rich neighborhood that they breathe, the same air that poor people also breathe. The only difference is probably pollution, right? Those who have more money, they can live in places that are not polluted. But that's not God's fault. It is our own fault that we pollute our own air. But when God gave us the air that we could breathe, He gave to everyone fairly, poor or rich people. He doesn't discriminate, and He never took it back, because when God gives, He never takes back. The sun, for example, that God gave us, it shines everywhere. It doesn't just shine in rich neighborhood. Poor people get to enjoy the sun as well. Let me tell you, if the sun was something that human gave to this world, we would have been paying the sun every month, just like we pay for electricity and water. Yeah. Because even water was given to us for free. We have water. However, places where we live, if you're not closer, for example, to rivers or oceans and things like that, you're going to need some type of infrastructure to bring water to you. And you see that when human beings participate in building the infrastructures that needs to distribute water, they have to charge money for it, right? They have to make money. So every single time human beings touch things that God gave us for free, they charge you for it. That's the heart of humans. But God does not need payment from us. See the difference between what God gives and what human beings give? When human beings give something to other humans, it is never to everyone. Some have them, some other people don't have. Look at money, for example. You got the rich and the poor. You know money is not made by God because everybody doesn't have money the same way. It is not fairly distributed, right? But God gives talent. Everyone has his own talent. Everyone. There's no one on earth who was born without a talent. If you don't know your talent, you need to look for it. You see the difference between what God gives and what humans give? God gives to everyone without discriminating. But human beings, we discriminate all the time. What we produce never reach out to everyone. So knowing that, we need to understand that it is the way that we live our lives that determine whether we can live a long life or short. And I'm going to be more detailed. I'm going to give you the 3 things that we need to do for us to be able to live a long life in a different video. However, in this video, what I want you to understand is that it is the way that we live our lives that will determine whether we live a longer life or short. If God was the one who brought death to human beings, all humans would die at the same age. There will be no discrimination. If God had decided that human beings will die at 100 years old, no one will die before that. And that is how we know the difference between what God gives and what humans bring on themselves. Some people die young, some people die at 50, some at 20, some at 80, some at 60, some at 100 years old. See, he can't be God because he doesn't discriminate. Now that we know that, we need to understand that we human beings can control death. We probably wouldn't know the day that we are going to die, unless of course you want to commit suicide. However, we can decide that we are going to live a long life and die when we are old and when our body can no longer hold, not when we are young. That is the end of this video. My next video will be how do we do that? How do we live a long life? I'm going to give you the 3 elements that human beings need for them to live a long life. Thank you very much for listening to this video. Like I always say, I'm not a preacher. I'm only a philosopher.